In this movie, I'll show you how to isolate the effects of an adjustment layer using a layer mask. And while we'll be using a couple of features we haven't seen before, it's pretty straightforward stuff. So notice in applying the overlay blend mode to this color adjustment, I've gone and darkened the turtle's eye. So now what I want to do is brighten that eye using another adjustment layer, but I want it to affect the eye and not the rest of the turtle. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom on into that eye like so. And then I'll select this tool right here, the quick selection tool, which if you can't see it near the top of the toolbox, then click and hold and choose the quick selection tool from the top of this flyout menu. Then just go ahead and click somewhere inside the eye and you'll end up selecting way too much of it like so. At which point we need to remove some of that selection by switching to this third icon up here in the options bar, subtract from selection. And then just go ahead and drag up here in this light portion above the turtle's eye in order to deselect everything that's not dark and purplish. And then you may want to go ahead and switch back to the default behavior here, which is add to selection, so you don't confuse yourself in the future. All right, now what we want to do is add another color adjustment. And I'm going to bring up the adjustments panel by clicking in this black and white circle in this column of icons. And that will bring up the adjustments panel, as you're seeing here. Then go ahead and Alt-click or Option-click on the brightness contrast icon to bring up the new layer dialog box. And then I'm just going to call this guy Eye and click OK. And notice that the selection automatically turns into a layer mask. And we can see that's the case where this mask thumbnail is concerned, because the eye, although it's very tiny, is appearing white, and everything outside of it is black. And if you can't see a big thumbnail there, just go ahead and right-click below all of the layer names and choose large thumbnails from the list. All right, now one way to work would be to change the blend mode to screen, because that's going to brighten that eye significantly. And that infuses the eye with too much color. It looks more purple than ever. So I'm going to undo that change by pressing Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac. If that doesn't work on a PC, that's because the blend mode is stuck. Notice that it has this blue highlight around it, in which case, just go ahead and press the Escape key so the highlight disappears, and then press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to restore the normal mode. And now what I'm going to do is crank up the brightness value, and I came up with the brightness value of 120, and you can see that I'm just shift scrubbing the word brightness there. Again, we end up with an extremely bright-looking purple, and as you can see here, we have these really sharp edges that are tracing around the eye. Let's get rid of those edges first. By clicking on the second icon, notice that we have two icons in the upper left corner of the Properties panel. The first one indicates the adjustment layer. The second one indicates the layer mask. And so if I click on that second icon, I'm going to see new options here inside the Properties panel, including this feather setting right there. In Photoshop, feathering is the same as softening. And so what I'm going to do is crank this feather value up until those edges go away, which happens at about 20 pixels. And then I'll just go ahead and press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac to accept that change. All right, now we need to get rid of this bright purple action that we've got going here, and we're going to do that using yet another blend mode. If you want a luminance adjustment, such as brightness contrast, to affect just the luminance of the image and not the color as it's doing right now, then you can change the blend mode associated with an adjustment layer to the very last one in the list, which is luminosity. And that way you will affect the luminance of the image only. And notice, as soon as I choose that blend mode, the effect calms down significantly. And now I'll just go ahead and press Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac to zoom out so that we can see the overall effect. This is what the image looks like without that latest adjustment, and this is how it looks now with a much brighter and therefore more visible eye. And that's how you isolate the effects of an adjustment layer, in this case to just the turtle's eye, using a selection outline that automatically turns into a layer mask here inside Photoshop.